Hello. We are looking at a biblical basis for understanding the kingdom of God, or what is the kingdom of God. So far, we've looked at various scriptures, including places like John chapter 3, verse 3. No one, unless one is born again, they cannot see the kingdom of God. Which, of course, the corollary is that if an unbeliever can see it, it's not the kingdom. We've looked at places like Matthew 25, verse 34. Inherit the kingdom prepared from the foundation of the world. We see that when Jesus was showing up, this was not the beginning of the kingdom. The kingdom had already been in existence. Jesus is simply announcing it's at hand, it's access, it's proximity, it's nearness. At the heart of most of the debate, most of the contention, or most of the discussion about what the kingdom of God is and understanding it, again, we cannot define the kingdom. We can only identify the kingdom. The kingdom is something real. It has been prepared from the foundation of the world. And again, of course, that means that it's probably not a physical kingdom because the whole earth was destroyed in the flood of Noah. But as we've been looking, we've been seeing the evidence that has been demonstrating this concept that even though some of the expectation may have been for a physical kingdom, the Old Testament doesn't promise a physical kingdom. It talks about a kingdom, and it might have been a foreign concept to the Old Testament writers who wrote it. But just like Paul said that the church age was not revealed to those in ages before him, it was revealed to the apostles and prophets of the New Testament church. It was a hidden thing. So we shouldn't expect the Old Testament writers to have expected what God was bringing forth, his kingdom and his church. But right here, I wanted to bring particular attention to this verse. This is Jesus standing before Pilate in John chapter 18, verse 36. Jesus is of course there. He's on trial before Pilate. And we'll just go back up to verse 33 and start there. So Pilate entered his headquarters again and called to Jesus. We're reading from the English Standard Version. "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "Do you say this of your own accord, or did the others say it to you about me?" And Pilate said, "Am I a Jew? Your own nation and chief priests have delivered you over to me. What have you done?" Verse 36. And this is the one I wanted to point at. This is Jesus describing his kingdom. Jesus says, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my kingdom or my servants would have been fighting, that I might not be delivered over to the Jews. But my kingdom is not from the world." Now, in the King James, this last phrase says, "But now my kingdom is not from the world." I can probably bring that one up really quick. I don't have all the versions I want to look at right here. But yes, right here it says, "But now is not my kingdom not from hence," he says. Now, what's interesting is some people try to say that the kingdom at that time was not of that world, and yet they try to make a case that saying that, "But now my kingdom is not from hence," as if it would be in a different form in another day. It's interesting to note, however, that this word "now" in the Greek doesn't necessarily mean the temporal now in that sense. The word "now" in English also has a variety of semantic uses. In fact, when one looks at the New American Standard Translation, it actually renders this word "now" as "but as it is, my kingdom is not from hence." And so, switching back to the English Standard Version, we do see in this version that they don't address it as clearly. "But my kingdom is not from the world." But what seems to be being gotten at here, especially with reference to fighting, is that Jesus does not deny that he's a king. And Jesus does not deny that he has a kingdom. In fact, he actually says he does have a kingdom. He says, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would have been fighting." He's not denying that he has a kingdom here. He could certainly say that if he didn't have a kingdom. But he's saying it's from another place or from another realm. So pretty much what he's saying here, by my understanding, I understand that other people have other opinions, but Jesus is saying that it's a spiritual kingdom. If it were a physical kingdom, if it were from the world, if it were from this place, then his servants would be fighting in hand-to-hand armed combat the way that people of the world do. This is also interesting when one looks at Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 2, of course, was the, if I can bring this up really quick, Daniel chapter 2 was the fourfold statue. The head represented Babylon, chest and arms of silver is Media Persia, Greece is the bronze here, and Rome is the iron here. But what's interesting is that according to the dream which God gave to Nebuchadnezzar, the king that Daniel interpreted, Daniel chapter 2, from Babylon to Media Persia, there was physical conflict and outward war here going on. Second of all, same for all of these. From Media Persia to Greece, there was a physical violent overthrow and a clash. And from Greece to Rome, around 29 BC. But the interesting thing is according to the vision that God gave to Nebuchadnezzar, when the stone finally struck, Daniel 2:35 says that all the elements were broken at the same time, or all broken together. The whole statue was in existence when the kingdom finally came. So even though there was a physical overthrow and the city-state of Babylon, the nation of Babylon was taken over by the next one, by the next one, by the next one, what we see going on here is that according to the vision, they all remained, even though there was an outward overthrow. Yet when this kingdom came, it overthrew them so much that it removed the materials from their place. They were all broken small and no place was found for them. Talking about the coming of the kingdom. And so we might imagine that when this kingdom comes in the Daniel 2 vision, that it might not be in the same way as the transition from gold to silver, silver to bronze, bronze to iron, which was a physical outward conflict, that this is a different type of conflict because it has the power what none of these before it did, which was to remove the predecessors from the field of vision here. And so we see that when Jesus is saying here, my kingdom is not of this world. If it were, then my kingdoms would, then my servants would fight for me, I believe it says in the King James. I switch over really quick again. Then would my servants fight. It doesn't necessarily say for me. That I should not be delivered for the Jews. It's kind of implied there. But Jesus is saying, my kingdom's not like this. It's not from this world. If it were, then my servants would fight so that I wouldn't be handed over to you. But as it is, or but now, so that now could be translated as but as it is according to the New American Standard. But as it is, my kingdom is not from hence. Jesus was not talking about a physical kingdom. For those who would try to hold the case that the kingdom was spiritual here, and in the future it would be spiritual, that makes even less sense, because God is not going to change the nature of the kingdom. If God came to set up the kingdom, if God comes to bring forth this kingdom that has been prepared, if it has been prepared from the foundation of the world, then it's a spiritual kingdom because the whole earth was destroyed in Noah's day. And if it was certainly spiritual in this time, you've already undermined the case that it can't be a spiritual kingdom, because right here it is. It was prepared from the foundation of the world, and right here, if you're saying that it was for a period of time, you've already thrown out your entire case that it wasn't, that it couldn't possibly be a spiritual kingdom, because you just said it was. But even worse, you then have to change it into a natural kingdom. Stepping over into the verse we'll probably look at next, 1 Corinthians chapter 15, says that when Christ comes back, he's going to give the kingdom back to the Father. Jesus is not going to give a physical kingdom back to the Father. Not only that, it says heaven and earth will be destroyed. If it stayed a physical kingdom, it would get destroyed. Jesus is not handing back a physical kingdom. So you would have to have a spiritual kingdom translated into a physical kingdom, translated back into a spiritual kingdom, and that makes no sense. The physical, whatever physical is going to be a manifestation of this one and only kingdom, which is, according to Jesus, John 18:36, spiritual. Thank you very much.